Let's get right to the point. Mike Judge is a genius, and if you don't know that, well, I understand. The fact is, when people think about great figures of comedy, it is easier for us to recall a face. Faces like Jackie Gleason, Eddie Murphy, Bill Murray. But even deeper than that, when people discuss great filmmakers of comedy, they tend to list people like Woody Allen, Mel Brooks, Kevin Smith. For some reason. Even though his last 4 or 5 movies were kind of shit, but... Wait, sorry. That's a different video. Sorry. Let's move on. Let's go even deeper than that. Cartoons have been an undeniable force in the world of humor. Shows like Looney Tunes, The Simpsons, South Park, The Boondocks. There is one name that is not mentioned nearly enough, and that name is Mike Judge. Everything he touches is a classic. Shows like King of the Hill, The Good Family, Silicon Valley, movies like Idiocracy, Extract, Office Space. All of that will be covered on another episode because we are going back to the beginning, all the way back to 1993 with Beavis and Butthead.
That was cool.
Breaking the law. I'm the great Cornholio.
And how about this one?
Whoa. Leave a little for next time, dude.
That's right, Beavis and Butthead, the stupidly clever satire that became a transcendent piece of pop culture.
Come on, just let me have one bite.
Get out of here, dumbass. Hey.
You guys are like the Lone Rangers, right? We saw you guys at the wheel well last month. You suck.
Yeah.
They're not watching those. They're out there watching Beavis and Butthead.
This show revolves around the 2 title characters. They are teenagers, and they are absolute idiots.
I hardly ever take the bus to school.
You hardly ever go to school, dillhole.
Oh, yeah.
When they aren't munching away on fast food or convenience store nachos, they are wasting away on their couch, bantering and scoffing at music videos.
These guys seem pretty cool.
Yeah. It's like they kind of remind me of myself.
Yeah, right. You remind me of, like, Urkel.
Shut up, Butthead. Look at this dumbass. How come he's the only one wearing makeup?
It's like him and the band all got together and stuff, and I said, okay, man, we're all gonna wear some scary makeup tomorrow. It's gonna be really cool. We're gonna kick some ass. But then this dumbass was the only one stupid enough to do it.
They are failures in just about every aspect of normal life, whether at school,
Spaghetti.
Spaghetti? Spaghetti? That's Italian, you moron!
in social circles,
Can we join your gang?
and with the ladies.
Is it time for our date?
The movie's over, dumbass.
But, unbeknownst to them, they were also a scathing critique on society, a constant source of controversy in the mainstream media, but above all, they were icons for an entire generation. Hello, my friends. Glad to see you in person. Now that the intro is out of the way, let's hop right into the meat of it all. Frog baseball. After graduating from San Diego's University of California in 1986, Mike Judge hopped around for various jobs, until eventually creating a series of short animations to appear on MTV's Liquid Television, the most important of which, well, Frog Baseball. Frog Baseball was unlike most cartoons at the time. If most cartoons were very family-friendly and kind of seated in morality and virtue, this was the exact opposite of that. It was crude, violent, and refreshing. Because of that, Beavis and Butthead would go on to span 7 seasons, from 1993 to 1997.
All right, now I'm going to ask you some questions. Failure to be truthful in your responses will be interpreted as an acknowledgement of guilt. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Here you go.
No. I said I need 60 cents, butt munch.
That's okay. I don't mind giving a little more.
Okay.
Yes?
I thought you said you were gonna give me some more.
With a feature film right in between at 1996.
Get the hell out of the cockpit!
You said...
Boys!
Beavis and Butthead are undeniably iconic, and it is all thanks to Frog Baseball. Sort of an easy way for me to explain to you why Beavis and Butthead perhaps was such a great thing would be to compare it to another cartoon, but I want to make a brief side note and say that it has kind of become a lazy form of criticism these days to simply say that because two things are alike, that is somehow a negative. Lion King and Hamlet are very similar. Congratulations, this thing's a lot like that. And Spike's Life, oh my god! The concept of cliches and tropes aren't inherently bad. In fact, more often than not, the reason they became a cliche is because they work so well. Beavis and Butthead reminds me of another cartoon, a great cartoon, Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown and Beavis and Butthead are both growing up in a world reflective of their own. They are both losers with bad social skills. They tend to fail at even the most basic of tasks. They are bullied by those around them. Adults are foreign and unrelatable.
Here's my first word of the spelling bee.
But the most important thing is actually the first part. They are both very reflective of the times they are set in. Charlie Brown exists in a world where kids play outside. They have that 40s and 50s all-American sentiment. Beavis and Butthead are products of the 80s and 90s. They watch TV and idolize rock bands whose values are vacuous and skin deep. Which leads us into... Satire is defined as the use of humor, irony, exaggeration, or ridicule to expose and criticize people's stupidity or vices. That's all I should have to say. Beavis and Butthead is brilliant satire. I get how it might be easy to write them off as stupid humor for stupid people. That is completely missing the point. Beavis and Butthead are a reflection of product-pushing heavy metal. They don't have morals because, well, they aren't expected to. To illustrate my point, I would like to bring up 2000's Jackass.
My friends.
And that's not to shit on Jackass, it's perfectly fine for what it is. But it needs to be stated that most of the men on that show were in their early 20s at the time, which means they would have been teenagers / adolescent in the 80s and 90s. We are a long ways away from the times of Jonathan Winters or Jerry Lewis. And for the record, no, I'm not saying that the old days were superior. I'm merely pointing out that society has evolved, for better or worse. If I can illustrate my point about satire in real life via personal experience, I would like to say that I can personally also attest to the fact that the show wasn't really that far away from the reality of the situation. The fact is, family dynamics had shifted a lot since early American life, and we were in a world where both parents had to work to provide, or even more so, that single parents had to provide leaving their kids at home to their own devices, which included eating junk food and watching TV. There seems to be this never-ending tug of war over the ideas of, does art imitate life, or does life imitate art? Underwhelmingly, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. But it must be said that perhaps the reason Beavis and Butthead resonated so much was because it was true. Society always likes to put up this facade like everything is perfect and hunky-dory. In fact, deep down, we are a walking bag of contradictions, bigotries, and other unspeakable atrocities, which is why when something comes along and shows us that, it pisses people off. Beavis and Butthead was the constant point of blame, scapegoating, and perhaps legitimate criticisms. During its run, it was accused of inciting arson, the death of children, the further objectification of women, corrupting the youth in just about every way imaginable.
Now, their fictional antics are being blamed for the death of a 2-year-old girl.
In fact, it got so bad that the show had to put up a disclaimer at the beginning of itself.
Beavis and Butthead are not role models, not even human. They're cartoons. Some of the things they do would cause a person to get hurt, expelled, arrested, possibly deported. To put it another way, don't try this at home.
Examples of other great satires. In 1729, a book was published called A Modest Proposal. In this book, we discuss the fact that Ireland at the time was a very poor country with a bad economy, and often that meant people went home hungry. So what was the book's solution to that? Have people eat their children. This book pissed a lot of people off, and no, it wasn't because the recipes were shit, it's because it shone a light on real issues of the time, particularly with Great Britain. The fact is, a lot of people don't care about the poor, or particularly the Irish, so to have that shoved in your face really got under people's skin. A mocking critique of the times, and it was effective as fuck, because the truth always hurts. To give a more modern example, and even another cartoon, in 1989 The Simpsons came along.
Make American families a lot more like the Waltons and a lot less like the Simpsons.
Now, what made The Simpsons such a controversy of its time, even though that seems kind of ridiculous to say now, you have to look at a lot of the sitcoms in that era. There was this, like, middle-class family dynamic, even though they always kind of had enough money to get by. The father figure was some sweater-wearing motherfucker who was all morally righteous and never wrong, and whatever problems were always wrapped up by the end, and hey, isn't life great? The Simpsons came along and shattered this illusions. Families fight, sometimes even toxically.
No, wait a minute. Wait. Boom, if I can... This is not the way to get healthy!
Father figures can be abusive, drunk assholes.
Joke on your kinder!
And it was so effective because it was true. Now, if satire has one glaring flaw, it's that it needs to be totally committed to the bit, to the joke, which means more often than not, there's going to be a certain section of the audience that doesn't know it's a joke. Some great examples of this would be political ones, The Onion and Stephen Colbert. Now, while it's easy for a normal person to look at an article written by The Onion and go, oh, okay, I get it. The joke is that they're pointing out how ridiculous lawmakers are and how stupid society is. But given the wide range of scope in politics, someone can read that and legitimately agree with it, or vehemently hate it so much that they don't even see the joke at all. Colbert is a character that is completely made up to point out the ridiculousness of right-wing culture. The problem is that he is so damn good at the character that some people are laughing because they agree with it, and not because they find it ridiculous at all. On the other hand, some people watch that and go, oh my god, I can't believe this guy really thinks that.
Last Wednesday, I saluted Washington Redskins owner Daniel Snyder for his new charity, the Washington Redskins Original Americans Foundation. Anyway, I was so inspired by Dan Snyder's charitable outreach that I formed my own charity, the Ching Chong Ding Dong Foundation for Sensitivity to Orientals or whatever.
Now, all of this isn't to write off any criticism that can be thrown at Beavis and Butthead. It is true. They are abusive to animals.
Saw off his tweeter.
Watching the dog! Watching the dog! Watching the dog! Watching the dog!
They are completely void of morality. They do objectify women.
Whoa. Yeah. Whoa. Yeah. Whoa. Yeah. 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 Whoa. You can see your boobs.
Damn, out of shampoo.
Hey, Butthead, did you see anything?
Beavis, I have seen the top of the mountain, and it is good.
And all of these other things. But it needs to be said that I would rather live in a society that points out our flaws than sweeps them under the rug. In conclusion, of course nothing is perfect. Beavis and Butthead has hundreds of episodes, and some of them are downright awful. But you know, not every episode of SNL is funny. Not every episode of Seinfeld is funny. Not every episode of Monty Python and the Flying Circus is funny. However, when those shows, including Beavis and Butthead, are dead on, they are transcendent, they are amazing, and above all, they are hilarious.
Oh, no.
Whoa. I think I just figured something out, Beavis.
What?
This sucks.
If I can end on one final statement, I would like to go back to the subject of the video. Thank you, Mike Judge. Without you, Beavis and Butthead wouldn't exist, and the world would be a worse place for it. I truly believe that. You are hilarious, your satire is on point, and I cannot wait to discuss your other works in future episodes. But in the meantime, you all out there, have a wonderful day. Papa Cheesy out.
Whoa. I'm out.
Get me out of here!
I'm back.